Hey everyone, it's Jazz. I'm going to be giving you ideal questions that you would want to ask if you are considering being an au pair. So with every family, it's going to be different, just from my experiences. And usually the interview is really the first initial sign of whether it's going to fit or not. It'll be a good fit between you and the family. So ideal questions is, for the most part, you want to focus on the kids because that's your main responsibility of being there. So even like the first questions would be mostly like, what are they like? Like, you want to know their personality. If there's more than one child, like, you need to have all the info. Like, what are they like? What's their personalities? I mean, you could even go as far to ask, like, how are they with meeting new people? Because sometimes they're like really shy, or sometimes they're like, they really don't like meeting new people. Like, it takes time to open up. So you have an idea of whether it's not so much as that it would be a good fit or not, but just because you want to know how much effort you're going to have to make with children. I had one child who really did not like me from the very beginning and with the first family. And over time, she was actually the first of those triplets to actually tell me that she loved me. So it took time, but I got her. So, you just want to know how much effort you're going to have to make. Even in any cases, if the parents allow you to go, like, to actually see the kids, like if they have them, like if you're, in my case, since I was still in the US before I went, I remember having to do everything through video call and seeing the kids and seeing how they would react to me. And they're like, oh, there's Jazz. And she's like, and then there was even one with my second family with those kids. They were just like, oh, like, look what I made, and like all this other stuff. So sometimes you really want to know, like, the vibe. Like, if you can meet the kids, that's even better, because then you can have the vibe of how to address the kids, or whether it takes more time or not to get used to them. I mean, I would even go far as to say, like, what are their activities? Like, what can I do with them? Because especially if you're with them all day long, for a specific number of hours per day, you want to have ideas of what exactly you can do with them. What I ended up doing was, even with my family, I actually had like a activity log of like week to week, like, did we do this? We did this. Okay, what else can we do? Like a checklist of like different activities we can do during the week, especially if you are alone with them. You need to know, especially like with their interests. Food interests, that's also important, because in certain cases, like, you will have to like feed them if the parent or the main caregiver is not around. So you have an idea of, okay, they're gonna eat this or they're not gonna eat this. Just so you can have an idea of like go-to things to make. Also, cooking expectations, because I know for me as a 24 soon to be 25-year-old, I don't know too much about cooking. I know how to make basic things. I can make pasta, I can boil an egg, I can bake you anything. But I know that as in your 20s, you're sometimes like, if you don't invest a lot of time in being able to make things for yourself, you might not, I'm just saying, like, I just feel, I'm not saying that everyone in their 20s doesn't know how to cook, but it's just like your skills are kind of limited. So what would the expectation be of actually having to sit there and cook something? I had in the second family, the mom was like, she was like really into cooking, like making like she would cook everything. Like, she had cookbooks and all these different things, and I was just like, your standards are way too high. I will not ever be able to make at this point in my time right now, I will not be able to make that. I mean, I can make something eventually, you learn, but mostly I was just like, I don't know. So cooking expectations is a very good thing to ask. With the language, first of all, because you're part of being an au pair is to also explore the language and culture in another culture, like in another country. So which language do I address the family? And like my first family, they didn't really speak a whole lot of English. So my main thing was I was always communicating in German, which was good for me because I could practice. The second family, they emphasized a lot more that they wanted their kids to learn English. So I was able to use both more often. I could go in and out. so I could explain things, and then also at the same time I could communicate with the parents because they were able to speak English as well. Especially like with English, you know, you want to pretty much, especially if they're like my second family, where they were asking like, we want you to influence our kids and so that they can learn more English. So on that note, it's more of, okay, like, is this something where I would need to create something on my own would I need to create something on my own to teach them, or would you have specific ideas of how I would go about that? Another thing on cultural notes is like, what is there to do there? So like my first family was in like Sela, so it was a really small city. So I didn't really know a whole lot of what to do. And so the most part I spent time in my room, but it was just more of like, we lived like next to a forest, so there's like bike trails and I could take a walk and something like that. But for the most part, there wasn't a whole lot to really do. I would say, how do you see me integrating into your routine? Because you're dealing with another person in the house, and so you're going to want to ask, okay, like, how should I go about being in your family, like with daily routine? Kind of goes along with the question I remember I asked earlier, like where I said about what is the routines typically like, but also you do want to ask, like, how would I fit into that? What are your expectations? So when you get there, it's not like, okay, how am I going about this? What am I doing? You know, you would already want to know that beforehand or have an idea. The other thing is discipline. So with dealing with kids, especially if you're dealing with them alone or babysitting at any particular time, like, what does that look like for you? Like, how do you go about disciplining your kids? I mean, I come from a Black family, and it's very typical for us to spank our kids when they're misbehaved. I got spanked a lot in my days, but I know that certain families are like, we don't do that, and we specifically just do this, or we talk to them a certain way, and I don't know. So what does discipline look like? Just so you have an idea, so you're not like doing something that they're like, why are you doing that? Like, no, we don't touch our kid. Like, not that I would touch someone's kid, but it's like, or at least not intentionally, but it's like, you know, oh, like, that's how you, like, no, we don't, like, you know, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where they're thinking that you're doing something that's like, it's like especially with cultural differences and how people handle kids, you don't want to put yourself in that kind of position. Also, on top of that, like, following up is, how would I go about it? Because you have a specific way. Like, for example, my mom, it was okay for her to spank me, but it was just like, if someone else did it who's not the mom or not the parent or whoever, it's like, you know, it's like, I wouldn't want that, you know. So that's just something I would pretty much ask. And then also, because an au pair is a temporary family member by definition, is asking, okay, how do you see me integrating into your family as, you know, a family member, so to say? It's like my first family, they're like, we want you to go places with us. We want you to go to the grocery store. We want you to like be able to go to like play dates with our friends, and we want you to be a part of it. You know, and even in that end, this actually even goes back to another question that I asked, which was about like, what is there to do here? It's like, well, how do I meet people my age? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you have the parents and then you have the kids and they're with their friends, and the parents are with their friends, and you're just like, who do I talk to that I can relate to, at least in my age range? So that's a really important question. Whether they choose you as an au pair, you have to make sure you're making a choice for you as to whether you want them as your au pair family. Because if you want someone if you're looking at a family who's just like, we want just free, you know, like not free, but like very cheap help, then that's not going to be efficient. Because I've actually, through a Facebook group, I actually found out that there are people who look for au pairs as like cheap childcare, and they like work them to death. I actually had an experience like that, which you'll see in Destination Deutschland, which is our au pair series, au pair diaries of my day-to-day accounts of my au pair experience. So if you want like more of a day-to-day experience of that, I strongly recommend you check that out, so you can kind of see whether you would like that, how you would go about different experiences or different scenarios as your au pair contract plays out. So those are basically my main questions. And I will just say that for those of you who are thinking about being an au pair, like, don't like think about this as like like it is a job, but you don't want it to come in feeling like it's a job. You want to enjoy your experience, and you want to make sure, like, don't just choose any family that will accept you. You need to ask these particular questions, because the last thing you want is to go to a foreign country and think it's going to be great, and then you find out that it's not what you wanted it to be, and that would ruin the entire experience. So I would just say it's really, really important to really pay attention to this. And then next week, I'll be doing another video, a part of this series, where I'll be talking about really important points that you want to focus on as you're going through the contract. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.